Now, when I rebooted the podcast, I was in some Facebook groups of chefs, and I asked for 12 chefs who'd like to be kind of like my advisory council. And I had over 200 chefs say yes. So I built a Facebook group, basically the Chef Life Radio Advisory Council. And I constantly asked them questions about what content are they looking for, what kind of lead gens they like, what kind of membership community would they like to be in? Would they like to be in Facebook, or were they off platform? So any questions that I have, I first start with them because they represent kind of the OGs of the audience. And I realized that for a couple of episodes, I lost sight of the fact that the show is not about me. It's not for me. It's actually for my audience and my avatar. So now I'm looking for more ways to include them in the podcast, such as, offering a 15-minute leadership audit, kind of like a hot seat, and including that in future episodes. So to include more of the audiences actually participating within the show and not necessarily me being on a platform and giving them educational information. That's kind of my next shift.
Okay. I want to cover a little bit of this. 200 people is not small. How did you get 200 people to join an advisory council? And is there any of that could be valuable to a listener in a totally different genre? When
I decided that I didn't know anything, I took part in a podcast accelerator, which took me all the way back to the ideation and the foundational principles of the show. Who's it for? What's their transformational journey? Where do they end up ultimately? What gets them there? Because it's really about a story. It's not about tips or tricks, or it's like, what's the transformational story to my listener that's going to resonate with them? Where are they at? Where do they want to be? How do I get them there? So part of that is going and then doing kind of like a targeted daily engagement. Podcasting is one-on-one. It's a very intimate type of format, which is why when I asked the gentleman I talking about earlier, why didn't you ever let me know? It took me a while to realize that, when those earbuds are in your ear, it's like a one-to-one conversation that's happening. So he probably already felt that he and I were talking about, like, that he already got that out. So that wasn't surprising. So again, for me to kind of go back and think about, how do I serve? So how do I get people to my podcast? Well, on my social media platforms, it's all scrubbed. All it says is podcast host, Chef Life Radio, big letters. So I went in finding groups that pertain to my avatar, which it just turned out on Facebook. There happen to be many chef Facebook groups. LinkedIn, not so much. So I focused on Facebook groups and would go in there and would make, engaging in the content. So making comments, posting questions, not blasting about my podcast. Nobody gives a fuck about my podcast. What they're looking for is to be engaging with one another, because what happens almost by accident is someone will see a comment. They'll click on my face or my little icon, be taken to my profile. And then it says Chef Life Radio. Like, what? Or follow up with a DM about saying, hey man, that thing that you were talking about, I did this podcast episode. Would you like to? So that's how I started building those relationships. And so when I also said, starting this new thing, looking for 12 people to kind of build an advisory council, there were 200 people who said yes. And I just kept saying, okay, based upon the fact that I knew that some people were going to be engaging and some people weren't, but it would be good to have that pool.